On Tuesday, Yemenis voted in an election, but the winner was a foregone conclusion. So, how do Yemenis feel about their first new president in over 30 years? Has their revolution been a success? And was the GCC deal aiming for comprehensive or rather cosmetic change? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Adrian Finnegan. Votes are being counted in Yemen's first election since Ali Abdullah Saleh stepped down. But there was only one candidate, Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi. Once Saleh's vice president and close confidant, Hadi was anointed as part of a deal backed by the United States, Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states. But the election was marred by violence, which left 10 people dead and forced the closure of 9 polling stations. Well, let's take a look at some of the challenges facing Yemen's new president. The country's army is battling al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. The previous president, Ali Abdullah Saleh, had been working with the US to try to crush them. Yemen also suffers from high unemployment and poverty. At least 41% of the population lives on less than $2 a day. And since the protests, around 50% are without jobs. And according to the UN, it's second only to Afghanistan for levels of chronic malnutrition. More than half of Yemen's children are malnourished. Well, the Yemeni Vice President, Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi, who's set to be declared president in the coming days, has promised great changes. He said, "This is a qualitative leap for modern Yemen. There'll be big political, economic and social change, which is the way out of the crisis that's ravaged the country." So, has Yemen's revolution been a success? And how do Yemenis feel about their first new president in over 30 years? To answer these questions, we're joined today by our guests. From Sana'a, Jamila Ali Raja, a political analyst and former advisor to the Yemeni Foreign Ministry. Here in Doha, Ameen al-Hemyari, a political analyst and professor at Qatar University. And joining us on the line from Sana'a, Osama Shamsan, who's the spokesperson of the Yemeni Youth Revolution, a group that protested against the elections on Tuesday. We'll start with you, Osama. How do you feel then about the election of Mr. Hadi?
Actually, we're looking at the election as a result of the GCC initiative, which we have declined long time ago. We believe that we couldn't implement democracy through electing only one person or only one consistent candidate, which is Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi. We've got a problem with Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi because he is still part of the previous regime, and we will completely have a lack of trust between Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi and his inner circle and the USA here in Change Square.
So, has the revolution, as far as you're concerned, been a success in that at least it has amounted into the departure of Ali Abdullah Saleh?
I completely agree with you that this sort of election has sacked Ali Abdullah Saleh and removed him out of the way and told his son forever. But yet we have went out to the street to demand change and to call for our rights. But the GCC initiative, we believe, has failed to understand the needs and the demands of the Yemeni people, and that's why we think Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi was not the right person for the job to lead Yemen through the transitional period.
Ameen al-Hemyari in Doha, will Mr. Hadi's election have any effect upon government in Yemen? After all of the key political players are still on the scene.
Yeah, I think the only solution was given to Yemenis, and the only chance is just to elect Hadi for the transition period of 2 years. I mean, the protesters have been in the street for about 1 year. Now, we cannot achieve the revolution goals in one day. Now, it's the beginning. Now, the first goal was achieved, and this is with the help of the GCC countries and with the help of the international community, the Security Council. I mean, they have rescued Yemen from being in civil war. And I think Yemen is still in danger. Yemen is not safe yet. The army is divided, I mean, the family members of Saleh are still in power. I don't know how Hadi is going to deal with these problems. I mean, he should act from now onwards to remove the Saleh regimes and the family members from the key positions in the army, and unify the army under one leadership.
We'll come on to talk about some of the problems that the new president faces in just a moment. But first, Jamila Ali Raja in Sana'a. Will Mr. Hadi's election, do you think, improve the lot of the average citizen in Yemen in any tangible way? Will life be any different under him than under Ali Abdullah Saleh?
I don't think we can say that yet. He was just elected yesterday, but there is a plan. And if he follows the plan, the GCC plan, it might work. But first of all, the plan includes mostly political stability, so we might not see the effect, the economic effect on the average Yemeni person. But as you said in the beginning of the program, there might be cosmetic changes or interferences at this stage, which the donors would want to apply at this stage, and I think that's a crucial time. I hope it does not, the cosmetic period does not take a long time, and that it moves to a more sustainable and long development in Yemen. But at the same time, it is a beginning, and I think it has a lot of challenges, and the challenge is not directed towards Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi only, it's directed towards all the political parties, as well as the youth, as well as the Houthis and the Hirak. And if we do not rally around what's happening now, what's taking place now, I think we might go back to the same status quo that we were before in.
So to a certain extent, you'd urge patience. Do you think that the population's expectations at the moment are artificially high?
Of course they are, yani, with all the martyrs' blood that was spilled on the liberation squares, definitely. But at the same time, I think that Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi and the coalition government are supposed to be responsible for building trust between the government and between the youth, as I said, and the Hirak and the Houthis. But no signs of this have started even before the elections, and even after the coalition government was formed. And there are very simple things that could be done to gain the trust of the youth and to show them there might be a change. For instance, health care for those who are injured, compensations for the martyrs who fell dead during the one-year revolution. Many simple things that if the coalition government outreach the youth, they might actually rally around the government, but none of this has happened. At the same time, the supposedly dialogue that will take place in June, the preparations, I don't think the preparations are done well. There is, of course, the 10 groups that are working now for the outreach and for a lot of problems that are facing the Yemenis, but I don't think that they are going to follow the timetable. They will not be ready on time, and there's a lot of delicate and small details that have to be taken care of.
Osama Shamsan, will the nation get behind President Hadi? What would it take for you to support him?
Actually, Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi has become our reality at this moment, and that, as youth here in Shahin Square in Sana'a and every square in the, in Yemen, we have to deal with him as he comes. We have said it before that, we are going to be open to Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi, if he plans, to start implementing the goals of our revolution, and that, to start, solving the problems and the issues that laid ahead, for the Yemeni people, but if Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi is going to, to choose the path of Ali Abdullah Saleh, then I believe he's going to have a problem with us, and we already know how to sack him off.
Do you fear that, to a certain extent, Hadi's presidency will be Saleh by proxy? Will Ali Abdullah Saleh still be able to pull the political strings from behind the scenes?
I believe that Ali Abdullah Saleh, and his inner circle still exist, in the country, and that they have money and the power since his family, still in charge of the Republican Guards. I believe that Ali Abdullah Saleh, up until this moment, still have influence, on the decision making in Yemen, and that's what we are afraid of. The GCC initiative, did not, guarantee us that Ali Abdullah Saleh is going to be out of the political scene, so we can start, working with everybody in Yemen, towards, building the new modern Yemen. But up until this moment, that's the fear, every youth in Yemen, is fearing that, Ali Abdullah Saleh is, able to influence any decision, that could be made in the future.
Ameen, al-Hemyari in Doha, I asked Jamila a few moments ago whether the population's expectations were artificially high. To what extent is there a belief that Ali Abdullah Saleh was at the root of all of the problems that affect or that blight Yemen, and that now that he's gone, so will those problems?
Yeah, 33 years of corruption, of course, have left Yemen a lot of problems, a lot of difficulties. The first problem is now the army is divided into two armies because of the conflict between Saleh's tribe. This is one of the major problems. The other problem is he encouraged al-Qaeda to spread because of the corruption in the country. Now, he wouldn't have allowed al-Qaeda to spread everywhere. The other thing, he encouraged Houthis to lead one of the governorates in the north. Now, plus the corruption now in every organization in the government, and he planted his people everywhere. It's a hierarchy, and he has caused a lot of corruption in most of the organizations of the government. Now I wonder how Hadi is going to tackle all these problems, and he was there in power for many years with Saleh.
But let's see if Jamila Ali Raja has an opinion on that. Will Mr. Hadi find it difficult to do what he has to do to introduce the reforms that he has to introduce, with so many of those from the Saleh years still so actively involved in Yemeni politics? How does he deal with those entrenched positions and vested interests?
I think there's priorities that he has to work on. As I said before, there are political priorities that he has to think about, but at the same time, he has to tackle the economic issue. And at the same time, the coalition government might seem weak and does not, and it's a divided government between the General People's Congress and the GPC. So each one of them are not really working together. So that's one of the main challenges I think that Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi would face. But at the same time, I just want to point out to a very critical situation that he would be facing if he doesn't talk to the youth very soon, if he does not address them. Actually, in most of his speeches, he has not directly spoken to the youth. He mentioned the citizens, he mentioned people, but he did not use the word youth. So I think if he does not address the youth very soon, these youth might be frustrated, these youth might continue to be in the squares, these youth might be possible candidates for al-Qaeda or any fundamental group in the future. So I do hope that he opens his eyes into this critical situation. At the same time, he has to do a multitask at the same time. We in Yemen are not multitaskers. If we are involved in the elections are the only thing we can think, the only thing that we can think about. But I think it's about time that we do have committees working at the same time, preparing for the getting out from the bottleneck.
Osama Shamsan, how long are you prepared to give Mr. Hadi? Will the youth of the nation go back out onto the streets? Will the protests, the revolution continue?
Actually, since Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi has become our reality, then we're going to put him in a test. We're going to put him in a probation period, to prove to us what he's willing to do, for the sake of our country. We don't have any intention of leaving Change Square unless two goals are met, and we're going to be clear on that. The first goal is having a major military reform, which will tackle, Saleh family out of the military and his allies, and the second demand is having a constitutional reform that will reserve, the rights of the Yemeni people, in the future. If these two goals are not met, then we'll continue our protest in the streets, and Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi has got to choose his path.
Ameen, al-Hemyari, let's talk about. Well, you touched upon it earlier, some of the most pressing problems for President-elect Hadi. We talked about the army, al-Qaeda, the Houthis in the north. You mentioned there's also the issue of those who are calling for a breakaway state in the south. There's the constitution, the economy. I mean, what are the most pressing problems? Where does he stand? Does he start? For instance, is it the army that he needs to sort out first, where many soldiers, as you were saying, are still more loyal to their commanders than they are to the state?
Yeah, I think President Hadi should act firstly and primarily with the military division. I mean, he should unify the army first. I mean, with the army divided, he cannot solve the problem of Houthis, he cannot solve the problem of al-Qaeda, and he will have a lot of troubles. Now, he has been a good friend of President Ali Abdullah Saleh, and he also a good friend of Ali Muhsin al-Ahmar. Now, the division is led either by Ali Saleh's family or Ali Muhsin. Now, they are both friends of Hadi, and now he is in a very critical situation. He is supported by the international community, he is supported by the GCC countries, he is supported now by the Yemeni people. The Yemeni people are, have voted for him, and I think the majority have voted for him. Now, how he is going to unify this army with his friends in power? Is he going to be brave enough to remove these people and take a very strong decision? I mean, if he can unify and restructure the army, I think the rest will be easier and things will go smoothly.
You talked about international support. Why did the international community support an election that was far from democratic? I mean, what's the value of a single candidate election in which voters didn't even have the choice to say no? Was it more about the symbolism, do you think, of voting not for Ali Abdullah Saleh?
Yes. It was, in fact, a real referendum for President Hadi, because it was part of the GCC initiative, and it was, proposed just to satisfy Saleh and to save his dignity. He doesn't want to leave, or he doesn't want to feel that he was forced to leave the power. Okay, he has repeated several times that he can only leave through election. So this just a kind of referendum for Saleh to be satisfied and to leave. And he said that because he wants to believe that in democracy, and he left, via election.
Jamila Ali Raja, I just want to get your thoughts on what you think the priorities are. You've already touched upon them. Of course, Yemen and President Saleh were key allies in the fight against al-Qaeda as far as the US and the international community is concerned. What impact will the power transition in Yemen have upon that fight?
Of course, Obama's advisor on terrorism issues was here in Sana'a, and unfortunately, when President Hadi left the meeting, the one thing he spoke about was that they were going to continue the war on terror. I would have loved to hear him talking about other issues, like solving the problems with the Houthis and the Iraq in a different way. I do not agree with your guest in Doha that we need to unify our army to deal with the Houthis and Iraq. Our dealing with the Houthis and Iraq has to be through dialogue. It doesn't have to be through the military forces. But at the same time, I do agree with him that there has to be a national unified armed forces. That would take time, and this is the second part of the GCC initiative plan, that there is going to be a restructuring of the army. It is a difficult task. It's very challenging for Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi. Ali Muhsin is part of the whole deal. He's a defector from the army. I wouldn't worry very much of the president's son, because I know that something would be prepared for him. He might be head of the General People's Congress, the political party, but I would be very worried more of the national security. And the national security, I think this is where the Americans focus their attention on the president's nephew, because he has been cooperative so far, as they say, on these issues. So yes, Al-Qaeda is a serious problem, but it could be contained again if the situation becomes contained and calmer, if there's a dialogue that involves the Iraq and the Houthis, and we listen to their demands and see what common grounds we can start with at the very beginning with them. We don't have to start with our differences in our dialogue, but we can step in the common grounds that we can depart on.
Okay, we're rapidly running out of time. Osama Shamsan, I'll come back to you for a final comment in a moment. But first, Ameen al-Hemyari in Doha. Do you want to respond to what Jamila was saying? And also, I want to ask you about how much influence the Gulf states, who helped to broker the deal to remove Ali Abdullah Saleh from power, how much influence they will have over President Hadi, and what happens if the president is unable or unwilling to implement what was agreed under the GCC deal?
Yeah. First, let me just comment of what Jamila has said. In fact, the dialogue can be successful with the Iraq or the movement in the south, because it is peaceful. But the Houthis in the north have fought many times, and they don't want to stop fighting, and they don't believe in the political dialogue. That's the first thing. And Al-Qaeda as well, you know, they have never stopped fighting. They want to destroy the whole country. I don't know how Hadi is going to deal with this, and the army is divided. Part of the army is in favor of fighting Al-Qaeda, and the other part does not want to fight Al-Qaeda because of certain political interests.
Okay, and the GCC deal, very briefly?
Yeah, I think the GCC deal is going to be implemented. Hadi has the support from the United States, from the European Union, from the Council. What is he waiting for? He should implement the GCC initiative immediately. Otherwise, there is no other way, there is no other solution. They have helped him to be in power, to give him all the authority, okay. And Saleh now is off power.
Okay, and very briefly, finally, Osama Shamsan on the line in Sana'a. We'll end rather with you, where we began, the youth of the nation. Is there any cause for optimism as far as you're concerned right now?
Actually, we have a sense of optimism of our future. But, if I can get the opportunity to reply on what you just said, about using military operations, to solve the problem, of the Al-Qaeda affiliated group or, Al-Houthi group, or whether it's the Southern movement group, I believe that, choosing the power force is going to drag Yemen into a civil war that, won't be able to be controlled at the end. I believe that through the national dialogue, and through, targeting the issue and the fundamental, issue through, solving the economic crisis we're going through, establishing a national dialogue that would, bring the Yemeni people on, around one table to discuss our issue. It will be an ideal, idea of solving the problem in Yemen, but using the power force is going to drag the country into a chaos and into a civil war that, nobody, the international community or regional, forces won't be able to control it.
All right.
And,
we're going to have to leave it there. I'm very sorry. We're completely out of time. I know Jamila was itching to come back. Thank you, though, to all our guests. Jamila Ali Raja, Ameen al-Hemyari and Osama Shamsan. And as always, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this edition of Inside Story. If you want to send us your feedback, please just email us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Thanks for watching. In Doha, I'm Adrian Finnegan. I'll see you again. Bye for now.